Guys, welcome back to Take One. And today we're going to do a review of Long Legs, directed by Oz Perkins. So, I honestly thought with this film going through, when I first thought about it, it looked very interesting based on the trailers and everything. I thought, like, this feels like something that, especially seeing Nicolas Cage in a horror film, which is not really seen that often, to be able to check that out and see what would come out of it. And today I have two directors with me, director Michael Wright and Christian Fink, and we're going to be having a conversation. So first thing of all, gentlemen, what were your guys' overall thoughts on the film?
You want to go first?
Well, I'm going to be the contrarian here, I suppose. Objectively speaking, I wasn't that impressed. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it was bad. I felt that it was very mid, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, that's fair.
like, I like Nicolas Cage, gave it his all. Don't get me wrong. He looks like he's having fun, and Nicolas Cage is definitely the best part of it. And I enjoyed that he's having fun, but I guess really my biggest thing was like the writing and the dialogue just felt very weak to me personally. I don't know. I just was having a hard time kind of getting into it. But also, I didn't watch any trailers or anything. I was just going off my buddy Matt. He's like, "Hey man, like we both love Mandy with Nick Cage," and I think he only saw like one trailer, and I think maybe he was thinking that it was going to be kind of like Mandy, and I guess I thought it was like, oh, Longlegs was Nick Cage going to be like some weird like spider creature or something like that. So I think I was expecting something like a little bit more out there. But even with the more traditional, I guess, style that it was going for, just me personally, like I wasn't that impressed. But if people like it,
No. There's also some like criticisms that I think I could also say about the film. I feel like, without spoiling the ending, I feel like that came off very anticlimactic. I felt like it almost felt abrupt in how it ended.
Yeah,
And
I'm very glad that you said, because I felt the same way.
Okay.
When I watched it, I was into it because it's very atmospheric. It's very vibes. You know what I mean? Like you're just creeped out the whole time. But once the story started like really kicking in, I was like, oh, come on, missed opportunity after missed opportunity.
It felt very like first draft. That's basically how I got. Is like, I think if these guys had more time, maybe they could go somewhere. But it just like, I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah.
I guess failed potential, I suppose.
Yeah, like especially for me, because I read like a ton of interviews because it was oh yeah, I don't want to get into spoilers. Although we can't have a spoiler talk, I do have a theory that I put on my letterbox that I think would be interesting to discuss. If we want to have like a spoiler portion too.
yeah, we could have a section with that.
Cool. But like non-spoiler, I saw, because I did not really pay attention to the marketing at all. I know that they built a website and I saw a lot of like other filmmaker TikToks talking about the marketing campaign. And I maybe saw one trailer on YouTube before I went to go actually see the movie. So I went in as blind as possible, and I was like so into it right until the break from the second act into the third, and then it just got really convoluted. I was like hanging on for dear life. I'm like, please throw me a bone, like give me something to hold on to.
I would honestly say its strongest was at the very beginning, and how it opens that film was really good. I really like what. I forgot the dimensions of the aspects of it.
It was like 16 millimeter.
Yeah, 16 millimeter shot, and I thought like as the film like progresses into modern time, like the fact that they did that, I thought it was really cool.
And honestly, it took me till seeing a video after the film to realize it was shot on film because the image is so clean. I thought like, oh,
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe they shot an Airy and they put like a film like grain over it in post and like gave it that feel. But no, like that's actually like real 35 millimeter film that they shot on. So I'm like, very, very clean image. So that was surprising. But it was so funny in the theater, in my experience. I was like into the opening. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's effective. Like, I wasn't scared by it at all.
Right.
But a woman two rows in front of me went like when Nicolas Cage showed up in the beginning. It was so funny.
Like, what did you guys think about Nicolas Cage's like almost let's call it like makeup design, creature design, because this is a kind of low budget film if you think about it. They've been estimating that it's been under $20 million, which is like that's almost considered an indie.
If I had to give it my best guess, I would probably I would say like 8 to 12 is a good range. I feel
Right.
like it would be done for that
Yeah.
amount of money.
Right.
Because they only had Nick Cage for 2 weeks for filming.
Yeah.
So it's like for his rate, I'm sure that was a pretty penny. But the rest of it, I'm sure you
Yeah.
can do fairly cheap.
I did find it very funny. The FBI jackets they have is almost certainly the same ones that we had in Polybius.
I was thinking
find
the
it very,
same
very
thing.
funny. So they definitely save money in that regard. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's kind of close to what they actually have anyway. So,
Yeah.
whatever.
I feel like all the good things to talk about the film are purely technical.
Yeah.
The cinematography, the performances. Oz Perkins, like he does create tone and atmosphere out the Can I
Yes.
swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Out the ass.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think
Freaks
sometimes
you out.
it's like that opening scene, and then there's certain scenes where like the camera just lingers and there's like nothing said.
Yeah.
Or you have like something like that scene with a girl who's just standing there,
Mhm.
and it's just that red room. I feel like such a good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's like some good visual stuff there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember there was a scene kind of more in the beginning of the film, about 15 minutes in. She's on the phone with her mom, and I won't spoil anything.
Right.
But there's a shot where there's just a door in the background, and obviously he's playing on like, you see a door in the background, something's gonna happen. But nothing happens. But my eyes were locked
Yeah,
the entire
yeah.
time. I
Right.
wasn't even looking at
Yep.
it. I'm like, something's gonna happen. And when nothing did, I was like, huh. And then obviously, I think shenanigans ensue.
Shenanigans. Like when I think the one of the biggest standouts is definitely Nicolas Cage's performance.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I go a little back and forth on it because he definitely has that uncanny look, and like his performance is very unsettling. However, there's certain times where like it almost feels comedic, and I don't know if that's what they were going for or not. And I had a hard time trying to figure out like this is funny, but like is it intentionally funny or unintentionally funny?
Yeah. I feel like Nick Cage, his whole career makes him the prime candidate for this kind of role.
Yes.
Because he's done so many different kinds of films at so many different levels of just insanity.
Mhm.
But he's also just a very talented actor. I feel like he can really walk that line and maintain the tension. But it's like if you really want to hear it, it's like the Nick Cage, you did the thing.
He did
you
the
know?
thing.
He was definitely having fun, and
Yeah.
that's probably like my best takeaway from this. Like the most positive thing is Nick Cage looks like he's having fun, and as long as Nick Cage is having fun, I'm having fun.
Oh yeah, I watched a lot of interviews with Nick Cage and Oz Perkins after the film because like I love to do that. Just what was the director thinking? What was the actor thinking? I was really surprised to hear Nick Cage actually really drew upon his mom for the role, like vocal intonation and just like physicality and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I'm like, that is interesting.
Yeah,
Like the first time I saw like his first appearance, I was like, "What's Steven Tyler doing here?" There's even the scene where he's at the market, and the girl is just like looking at it, and you could see like she kind of almost senses like she's there, like this, like you almost feel like there's a smell that accompanies this
Yeah.
Oh
man.
yeah, BO vibe.
One thing I think I was really cool that like even though it does a lot of like back and forth, and it had been very monotonous just to put 1963 and 1995. They just put up like basically portraits of presidents.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of unique.
My theory when we get into spoilers has to relate to those, by the way. But yeah, it was very refreshing. It's just a film set in the 90s. It doesn't hold your hand through it. You can really just tell by the clothes they wear and the cars they're driving, the presidents on
Yes.
the wall.
Yeah,
It's just like,
I do have to say with that though, like obviously I love me some period pieces, but I also feel like there kind of needs to be like a narrative purpose, and I wasn't really quite sure what was the narrative purpose for it being set in the 90s, other than maybe the 90s is getting in fashion now since we had the 80s. Like
there is actually a theory about that because now the generation coming in, the generation before was hungry for 80s nostalgia, but as our generation gets older,
Yep.
the 90s nostalgia is
Nostalgia.
going to start coming in. So I mean, we already got that 90s show from that 70s show.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like I feel like that's what it is. Like either our generation or like the next generation is going to have that like 90s boom.
Yeah. But this film really definitely has a lot of, it takes inspiration from the 90s for sure. Like Silence of the Lambs, you have a lot of David Fincher inspiration in there. I'm trying to think of like some other,
yeah, there's some bits like
a lot of dolls in the film.
yeah.
I wouldn't say that's a spoiler. There's dolls in the
Yeah.
film. I'll leave it at that.
Do you feel like because how it played out, like to like without spoilers, is like it doesn't like you're not 100% explained basically how long legs operates in another sense. Do you feel like that was a good idea or not? Because I feel like with horror, like usually what they tell you is the less you explain, the more your own idea of what's scary comes in, and then you create your own horror that's and it actually is more impactful. Kind of like, for example, like Jaws. Like Jaws is almost never in the film, and that's because if you saw the shark often, it would lose its magic in a way. So like you're imagining his dimensions and how ferocious he is. Like, do you feel like big the magic, like the satanery of it? Do you feel like it could have been more explained, or do you feel like it was good the way it was?
I didn't like inherently have a problem with it, but I will say, I think the name is stupid. Long legs, like I had to like look that shit up why he's called long legs, which I guess is just because like I won't spoil anything, but like I guess when talking with kids, oh, he's tall, he has long legs, and it's like I don't know, man. If you want to give him,
That's a '90s nickname, that's for sure.
yeah, like if you want to give him that name, sure, but I don't know, maybe title the movie something else. I don't know, like it just
Yeah.
I feel like they probably had an idea for another name for the film, and it's like, fuck it, we'll just we'll just call it Long Legs.
Yeah, the narrative is what really gets me.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because Oz Perkins, I read an interview, and he really wanted to explore the question of, because it was very, I don't want to say like autobiographical, but he was definitely exploring a lot of his own relationship with his parents, because he's obviously the son of horror legend, the guy who played Norman Bates.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I
Yeah,
don't know that either.
Anthony Perkins. That's it. And his mother, obviously, and so it was very sentimental to him to explore these questions of like, what would a parent sacrifice to like protect their kid? I don't think that's a spoiler at all.
No.
But that's like the question, and for me, if that was the question that he was going for, I feel like it could have been done a bit more effectively. Like, for a question like that, for a film to explore, there is narrative juice there, but I feel like he didn't go that extra 15% to like really nail into it.
Also, I mean, personally speaking, without spoiling, I think there's a pretty clear answer what the parent should have done. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes.
Look, you could.
No, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
So like
What state was it set in again?
Oregon.
Oregon? Okay, I was about to say that wouldn't fly in Georgia.
No. Anything in the South, that shit would have been like a TikTok clip at that point. Like grand opening, grand closing. No shot.
Yeah.
So do you guys feel like, what are your thoughts overall with the supporting cast?
Yeah, I mean, like the two, I guess, other leads or whatever. I think that they're good. I forget her name, but she was in It Follows. That's kind of the main thing that I know her from. I think that they were both good. I just think that they were hampered by the dialogue, particularly the boss. I forget his name. I think he was probably hit the hardest when it comes to poor dialogue.
Was there like a particular scene that like threw you off and like, oh,
I kind of rolled my eyes on like all the FBI stuff. I was like, this is like so first draft, in my opinion. Like just like the analysis of the crime scenes and all that. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to harken back to like the 90s when that stuff was maybe more like acceptable, but it felt too cliche, I guess, like the dialogue and stuff.
The dialogue, yeah. For me, it was also the character, because I was so interested in her character for the first half of the film.
right.
And I will say, I won't get into spoilers, but
She's just introduced as someone who's like semi clairvoyant.
Yeah,
And there's something like you feel like
came out of the blue in the
Right.
beginning, and I was like, okay, all right, if this is the route we're going, I felt like there could have been a little bit more preamble, not even like much, just like a line, a scene. I'll be able to drill into this more if we get into a spoiler discussion, because I do want to discuss that theory for the presidential portraits and what I think it means. But the actress did a really good job of keeping you engaged with the character when there was not much to her. And not saying that every film has to have like a big defined character arc. I'm not saying that, but there could have been more to the character about what she's thinking about, what she's struggling with, and how that could have been explored a bit better. Because in the beginning, I love this. There's a scene where this wouldn't be a spoiler. She meets her boss's kid, and it's just awkward and a little funny, and you can tell she's just a kind of standoffish, and that really endears you to her. So it's like, okay, cool, I'm in. And then it goes.
Yeah, she feels 100% awkward. Even when he
FBI
invited
agent,
her
very
over, she was
passive.
like straight up. She's like, no.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah, it was just, again, a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of vibes.
like, if without getting into spoilers, and then we'll delve into it more.
Yes.
If let's just say I gave you guys the script for it, like both of you, like what would be something that you would need to that you would change, like things you would need to change out of it.
So, because the film, I feel like it wouldn't be a spoiler to say that the film deals with like satanic subject matter.
Right.
Yeah. Especially if you're someone who has like visited the website, they would be all caught up on that.
Right. This is like where it's set. It's like almost like post Satanic Panic, because that was like
yeah, that was in
around
the 80s.
the 80s. So like when you're going to 90s, like it's just post that.
Yeah. And for me, because I am a Christian, I am a believer, I take my faith very seriously. So for me, I definitely would have leaned more into not necessarily an exorcist route, but definitely have a bit more of the yin to the yang. Like if you're going to have the satanic subject matter, that's fine. But especially for this film, they make it a point to like really accent it. You know what I mean? They reference Revelation 13:1, and the character recites it from memory, and then they go the extra step further. I've thought a lot about this. She recites it from memory, and then the agent's like, yeah, Revelations. And the agent then takes the extra step to be like, no, Revelation, there's no S. And for me, that really perked my ear up. I physically leaned forward in the theater. I'm like, okay.
That's the first movie they ever got it right, because all of them say Revelation.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like, okay, like if we're going to go this way, like I'm hooked because I study the book of the Revelation very, very intensely.
Right.
I get a lot of inspiration from it. So, and then that's why I felt so let down by the film. It's like, if you're going to use that as subject matter, that's fine. I don't even care. Like, and in that interview that I read online, he's like, I'm a-religious, and he went on a whole tangent. I'm like, okay, this guy has no theological skin in the game. That's fine. So it wouldn't be fair for me to like judge the film on that kind of merit. But it's like, if you're still going to reference it to that degree, it's like, all right, then at least invite a little bit of the other side of the coin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I would kind of agree in that, in the fact that, like, you know, I think there'd be two options with that. Is if you're going to go with the satanic thing, I don't want to say like read more up on it, but it felt very, very boilerplate.
Yeah.
Like either that or just make it more abstract. But like, I think that's probably my biggest gripe with the story is like, dude, it's just like, I don't know, man. It like, I don't really know how to describe it other than kind of like, something for like a short story that like you didn't.
It almost like a pitch. For like a longer.
Because I think of the film like The Exorcist, like because that film is obviously a demon possession film.
Yes.
But the real story of that film was like this priest struggle.
Yes.
So it's like there was like a human element to it, and this film, it just kind of feels like creepy things happen. Evil is here to stay.
It's like a 13.
That's about
13-year-old Redditor's like, you know, impression of like, I don't know, satanic stuff or whatever. It's like, if you're gonna go that route, I just like go all in, or maybe just make it more abstract. But like, I guess I just rolled my eyes like, oh, it's the devil.
Yeah, it just felt very, very surface level with it, because like the Book of Revelation is like a long like chapter and stuff, and it like goes into the ideas of the end of the world, the Antichrist, the false prophet. But like it seems like very much like almost like, I don't want to be mean and say like almost like a Wikipedia summary of it, but it almost does feel like that, and to a certain degree.
Well, it uses it. It really only uses that verse. Like it doesn't really delve into any other verses, and it really only sets it up as a kind of framing device for how Longlegs operates with another character in the film. And it really only went to that extent. It's like there's so much lore and subject matter there.
The devil would have a cooler name for Nick Cage than Longlegs. And I dub you Longlegs.
For real.
Bro, Nick Cage is not even.
How do you go from Beelzebub to Longlegs?
So overall, out of 10, what would you guys give it? Like for me personally, like you guys said, I love the cinematography on a lot of it's really good. I did have some complaints on costume, and I feel like the dialogue could have been a little tighter. Um, Certain scenes where they just linger, I feel like really pop. They're really, and I like their usage of color too. But like, I do have this similar complaints as you guys. To me, overall, I would say a 7 out of 10 would probably be like what I would judge it for.
I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd probably do a solid 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much. This is, by the way, we're going to go into spoiler territory. So, like, if you click on now, you're a bit of a coward, but we love you anyway.
One thing before spoiler. There is one thing that I did see promotional wise. There is a phone number that you can call. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yes.
It's very goofy, and I would highly recommend to anyone. Just look that up and just give it a call, just give it a little listen. Maybe send it to your friend if it's their birthday or something like that.
I also need to check out the website. At the bottom of the website, it said check back in August, not August, like on the 15th of July. And so the site has been updated. I just need to go visit it, see what the update was. But check out the website too.
Yeah, check out the website. Guys, let them know where to find you guys.
Oh, you can find me on Instagram at @the_nutcase01 and on TikTok, nutcasefilms.
All right, and Instagram, Gorilla Underground Productions. Don't have a TikTok right now, but I guess I should probably do that.
All right, guys, thank you so much for coming. And now spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay.
All right. So
You guys have free reign.
All right, let's hear that theory.
Wait. All right. So because we're all filmmakers here, and when I noticed the portraits of the presidents, I remember seeing some other reviews, and people just thought like, oh, it's like meant for comedic effect or just to kind of help accentuate the time that the film is set in. But I noticed because the presidential portraits only show up with characters that end up committing murders. The one with Richard Nixon, when you see it in the film, he's actively killing a priest and his wife with the axe. And then obviously with the FBI boss, I forget the character's name, has the huge, comically huge portrait of Bill Clinton.
Yes.
And knowing that Oz Perkin is a-religious, he doesn't have any religious skin in the game, I feel, because again, you don't put in a picture of a president by mistake. That's a very clear, conscious choice.
Right.
So I think a theory of maybe to kind of give it a bit more narrative weight would be for individuals who do revere political figures to a level where they do have portraits of them in their home, akin to a religious figure. A lot of people have pictures of Jesus.
Yes.
The Hindus have little statues of their gods and they worship. Chinese with Buddha, whatever. So once you revere a political figure to that religious extent, would that make you a bit more open to Satan's influence? Because whether you believe in the devil or not, I think we can all agree if he were to be active in one area of life would be politics.
Yes. I mean, that's what they said. Like, didn't they say also, because I'll even add some chips in that. The Antichrist for the Book of Revelation is supposed to be like a charismatic politician, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
So I feel like that adds to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because the beast will come out of the sea. There's one interpretation where because it describes as a turbulent sea, and the sea connects all the nations, and something that's always turbulent is the realm of politics. He is going to be a political figure that does rise. So it's like, again, there's enough lip service or production design to link it to that, and it's if you just went 15% further, I would have been this is an amazing film.
I would like to believe that, but unfortunately my mind is more biased that they're just trying to make an easy way.
He's like, y'all didn't make it this deep.
Yeah.
But also because the way the film opens, there was a visual motif that I caught, because before we have that opening scene where we see Longlegs for the first time, the house in the winter, whatever, it opens with a red 16 millimeter square.
Yes.
And then there's a song lyric, and then it goes into the opening scene.
Yes.
And then we do see that square show up again when the lead character is taking those tests to see if she's has psychic ability or not. So since the film opened with that because again, it has to be intentional. Like like I can't see him being that like, oh, this will be funny. You know, like he seems like an artistic enough guy. It's like, no, we're gonna introduce these elements to at least invite the audience to have these kinds of theories. So once I saw that square again in that scene, it's like, okay, maybe this is an exercise for us to associate whatever we want with this film and imbue it with whatever our political biases or religious biases are. I think at least the film invites you to kind of like engage with it to that level.
You guys felt like because like while you see him, because one thing I thought about, like I'm kind of like back and forth on, like when he's creating his dolls, you see basically Baphomet in the background. I go back and forth on it because I felt like he didn't really need it. It felt a little bit like overemphasized, like he's evil, he's Satanist. Like, you know, just like I felt way too on the nose for me to take that seriously.
The design of it too felt very. I felt like I saw it before in like some music video or something like that. Like,
he's like very iconic. Right? Yeah, he's like, that's basically supposed to be Baphomet. You know, he has the goat's head.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I remember there's like a scene in her in the library, and I remember seeing a shadow fade away in the darkness, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Did you guys like? I'm sorry, were you gonna say something?
What were you gonna say?
Did you guys like the twist essentially that like her mother was assisting Longlegs into like executing people? Because I felt like that was another one where I thought like I didn't 100% buy it, to be honest.
Yeah, because like for me, in order for me to really feel to make that work, because there's a scene too where she's on the phone,
right?
And she's like, "Are you saying your prayers?"
Yeah,
you know, prayers don't really do anything. It's like there was no context for their faith to feel it like it was a real twist or a betrayal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
like
what
there
I
wasn't a
wanted to
scene
say.
of them at church being like, oh,
Yeah.
or you know, whatever, or like having like an intense like discussion about whatever. So yeah, and the film has very limited characters, so it's like it's gonna be one of like three people. And I like guessed the mom halfway through. I'm like, all right. Although I will say, like, going back to the 13:1 verse. I do find that the film, it is very interesting because it's a very good example of like how Satan operates. It's like he wants to take what is pure and corrupt it to a level where he's using it for his will. And on that level, it's like, okay, the film is interesting on a theological standpoint. But yeah, I felt it's like I wanted that 15% more.
Yeah. I don't think it was probably the best option to have the mom be kind of this, and like they spent like 5 minutes like dialogue explaining how all this stuff worked, and that was kind of like that was a big thing for me.
It was convoluted.
I you know, like in a serious situation, I don't actually know how many parents would choose to kill multiple families just to save their child. Part of me kind of wants to believe that isn't the case, but I mean, you know.
And it seems very like odd that she would just like instantly be on board with it.
Yeah, like no fight.
Especially because
she doesn't it just sound like, because there was never like a thing of like I didn't want to, but he did something to prove to me that like she could. It's almost like I'm gonna do it, and she just instantly believed him.
Especially because like the mom doesn't really seem to care about her daughter, anyways. That's kind of like what I got. You know, as like if they wanted to do that, then maybe make her like more devoted to her daughter. But it definitely seems like, right? I mean, wasn't there something where like she hasn't talked to her in years and shit? I don't know.
Yeah, essentially, like they're very like distant, and like it's more like even like she doesn't like, you know, your daughter living with you. She never really gets that kind of sense that she even does something like this. You know, you would feel like something like, no, I don't want to go to my mom. There was never that kind of instant like I don't want to go to her for X amount of reasons.
Yeah, there was like no context for the relationship.
Yeah,
and for it to even like be heartbreaking, like towards the end, because the end really bummed me out.
I just felt like it just like, okay, you know, the detective, the captain, he's dead. And that's resolved, and then she kills her mom, and essentially kind of like cuts. Then you know you hear you know Nick Cage like "Hail Satan," and that's the end of it.
That was such a schlocky end.
And I just found myself, I'm like, is there like who's gonna friggin' believe? I mean, like, is she gonna be maybe like because she sees all these dead bodies around her? Maybe it would have been interesting to be like, why didn't you call this in? Like, are you because you're connected with him? Are you under his influence? I thought it would have been
Yeah.
that's the route they would have went in.
You're
But they
talking
just
about with the boss basically like questioning her. I thought they were gonna like kick her off the force,
Yeah.
or like arrest her or something like
right. I thought that was going to be
that.
something with
Nope,
it.
see you at the birthday party. Which also, in regards to the birthday party, I don't really like. I guess they kind of would have dug themselves in a hole, but I think it's pretty clear from the start when he's like, "Oh yeah, my daughter's birthday party's on what is it, the 12th or whatever
Yeah,
the day is."
you instantly know it's going to be.
14th.
Right. I don't think that like. I mean, I guess it would have been weird for like. For them to have any suspicion about it, and it also would have been weird for his, the dude be like, which is a strange coincidence, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I will say too, like the one thing that really ticked me off about the character is that she was so passive in her own story. It's like the minute she gets there, she like just watches them go into the kitchen. Honey, can you join me in the kitchen?
Yeah,
Bam, bam.
yeah, you won't be.
It's like you have the power to stop this. Like you're obviously not under the influence, or even if you are, you still have the wherewithal. To
Yeah, she just let her just like because she knew instantly off the bat that like that he's it's too late, he's too
Yeah.
gone and stuff like that, and like that's essentially what she does. She just stays kind of awkwardly with the daughter, I guess, just to see. I don't know. I just feel like that could have been done a lot better.
Yeah, that ending could have like really amped it up towards the end. They could have nailed the ending, but nah, we just gotta hail Satan, peace out,
Yeah.
motherfuckers.
I don't know, man. Like, was he just like, did he have to rush this film out or something? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, and I feel like it was honestly a victim of its own hype, because
Yeah.
like at least in the filmmaking, like I don't know like what circles you guys are in, but like I know I had a lot of friends from SCAD like tell me like, oh, long legs. My TikTok feed was long legs. So it's just like
It was
it
very
seemed to me like
anticipated.
everybody
Yeah,
was talking about it.
it almost feels like to me like he had like a great idea and a great aesthetic going, but like the execution wasn't quite there.
Yeah,
It could have maybe been maybe a little longer, maybe to try to like add more details and those sorts of things. But
yeah.
Listen, I like my idea better in my mind when I came into this because I didn't know anything about it. I was just going with my friend, and we're both Mandy stands. We're both standees, one might say. And I was just like, all right, cool. Nick Cage is gonna be some fucking whack ass like spider creature. This is gonna be some pretty out there stuff. So that's what they should have done, if you ask me. I think Nick Cage should have been a spider with long legs.
so that's the more spiders that would have been. No,
And it was
that's sequel.
Was
They
there even
kept
any
getting-
spiders in there?
Yeah, no spider.
And it
Daddy
kept getting
long
like
legs.
compared to like Silence of the Lambs. So going into it, I'm like, oh, Silence of the Lambs, like it's gonna be like a murder mystery serial killer thriller. Like, all right, sign me up. I did not expect the satanic route at all.
It just felt like the answer when you don't have anything. And maybe it wasn't the case for him. Maybe it was, like based off of his actual family stuff or whatever. But to me, I didn't get that. Like, had I not
Yeah.
known that, it just felt like they just went for the easiest route, which is,
Yeah.
I feel, kind of the easiest route when you can't think of anything. It's either they should have like just made Nick Cage a lot more interesting character if they weren't going to go the satanic route, or they should have really delved into that, like The Exorcist does.
Yeah.
Would you like to have either a sequel or like something that like another film that explores this, or you think or are you just done with this world?
I feel like for this film, the tone and the atmosphere that it was able to capture, that's like a one-time lightning in a bottle kind of thing. You know what I mean? And again, like if anyone out there is like really into films that are like, oh, vibes, because the film has vibes
Oh,
for
definitely.
days, but for me, I need the narrative. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know how you expand on the narrative, because it wasn't like Longlegs is this like mastermind with like a 10-year plan that like pulling like a Joker, like, maybe it doesn't end with me, but the message will continue on.
Yeah, because it's almost like when he dies, and then there's that final cut. It almost means like since he's empowered by like satanic forces, I feel like it'd be easy to bring him back.
Yeah.
Either in his like original form or like a different form on it, almost like an Exorcist. Like like Pazuzu used to just go friggin' everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, the best thing I could say is I hope that they made enough money that they can, like, him and Nick Cage can try again.
Try again.
for something else. So
So you wouldn't. It's not like
Long
you want to
Legs
have a
Take Two.
sequel, but like you would just want them to almost do like a remake of it.
no. I think that like he seems. I'm not quite sure if I've seen any of his other films, but
I think he only made like 2 other films before
Okay.
this and some shorts.
it seems like he's kind of got the vibes and all that stuff. So like different story, and maybe give it another go with Nick Cage because I know that he co-produced it. So basically, hopefully they made their budget back, and
Oh, they did.
yeah,
I think.
Oh, easy, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was a small budget production, so
yeah.
like I felt like it was
Yeah.
evidential. It was gonna-
especially because like a lot of the I guess just regular population doesn't really look too much at the director, even if people were overall dissatisfied and burnt out by this. If this guy was also to make another film with Nick Cage completely separate, I don't think people would realize that it's the same dude unless it's like from the director of but even then people don't really watch that.
Yeah.
So they'll, another Nick Cage movie, and it's got interesting vibes. So in that event, I think all is well, because I think they can give it, the two of them can give it another go. But
Because he is talented, so it's like if he can, it's like really find a subject matter that you can like really dive into the narrative juice of it, then it's like, all right, I think he would be able to really knock it out of the park. This is like a technical achievement, absolutely. Like the sound design, the cinematography, again, like there's nothing like wrong with the film.
Mhm.
It's just, he needs that narrative.
Right. It just feels like it could have been like expanded more in certain things.
Yeah.
It'd have been interesting to see like something that, like you said, to make it almost like a religious conflict, making it like actually is like a book of Revelation sort of thing. But you would think though, like, wouldn't that decrease almost like the fear and powerlessness? Because if you have something, for example, like let's just say if they use like holy water, or they got themselves a priest, wouldn't that remove the tension? If it even had a kind of power on it, because like ideally, like it's kind of hinted whether it's kind of like almost like vague whether like Longlegs is mortal, like completely like human or not.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting. Just
Yeah, it would be interesting. Because I know how I would handle it
Mhm.
if it went that route, because that's kind of the route I want to go into my career anyway, is
Yeah.
like explore those kinds of themes and make it interesting for the audience. I mean, Why Now? Perfect example.
Mhm.
But I guess in the mind of Oz Perkins, that probably would take away, at least in his mind, and maybe because that's just from lack of experience, or maybe he doesn't really, that's just not what he was going for the film. But yeah, it would be interesting to see if he, or even hear if he ever like considered that, like bringing in a priest character, or just something to give it a bit more depth and kind of justify it a bit more. Because yeah, the satanic route, it just, not to say it like came out of the blue, but because there were some supernatural elements to it, but it really just became like, it went from like elevated satanic horror, because satanic horror is just a cornerstone of the horror genre.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, like we're gonna have like a really amazing satanic film, and then it just goes into like horror schlock.
Yeah.
It's just like,
like they pulled the easiest one out of the hat.
for me, like the ending with the Hail Satan, it's like, it didn't even like offend me as a Christian. I was just like, oh, come on, that's how you decided to end it.
I just was kind of done by the story at that point. I didn't even care. I was like, honestly, man, I was kind of like, oh, cool, we can get out.
Yeah.
It was so funny because the guy next to me too, he came with a buddy, and I was like, typing out my Letterboxd review and my seat and everything and watching the credits. And the guy, he just goes like, I feel let down. And like I heard their conversation as they were walking out, but it's like, I feel like that was a lot of people's reaction later.
Yeah, I definitely, like, we weren't the only ones that like were walking out. It's like, that was kind of mid.
Yeah.
I was checking on my phone to see if he was the writer. He was the writer. So
Yeah.
I thought with that opening scene, I was expecting a lot more, because it did.
Yeah.
It knew how to make an entrance. I'll tell you that.
And it opened with a lyric. I forget what the lyric said or what song it was from.
Yeah, I don't know. No, it was like T-Rex or something. I don't know if that was the song that was playing the whole time, but because I guess I don't know the song, whatever. It's like, I don't know. It almost felt like one of those things, like, I don't want to say that they shoehorned it in, but I just, it felt off and not in there. And B, I wonder how like surface level the lyrics are applying to this.
Because there was nothing like really connecting the film to the lyric, so it's like, why have it in there?
Did you like? How was it like in regards of like a threat level? Like, did you feel like for example, like could it have been like more like a regional thing that like you could have, or is it like just smaller personal thing was better? Like,
I think
would you how would you have would you have made it more of a threat essentially that it impacts maybe more people in Oregon, or is like less because it's
yeah, I would say less.
yeah
I think that expanding it out, again, they're just trying to go for like Mindhunter,
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs.
Do you guys watch Red Letter Media?
no.
I haven't seen them in forever.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I still watch them. I think they're great. And it was really funny because they were talking about long legs, and the guy just goes like, "This feels like a really big Criminal Minds episode." I'm like, accurate.
Yeah.
Accurate.
That shit's pretty accurate. Well, yeah, guys, thank you so much for showing up. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
And overall, our thoughts on it, I said it was a 7 out of 10, and both of you guys said 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope that the two of them can work together in the future, and hopefully they can make something better, because I think that there is potential.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I agree with that.
I'll definitely be excited to see what he does next. I hope that it's a bit more of a personal story, and they just dive into that narrative of it. But yeah, and if you're a fan of vibes, definitely check out the film. But if you like narrative, then you can miss it. You probably won't miss much.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you guys so much for showing up and watching this. And make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more.
Sweet.
I'm glad I'm not crazy.
It's like, no, I felt the same way too. Like when
praising
I watched it, I liked it, but I was never like that. Like I kind of was expect. Like I kind of liked the theater and being like,
Yeah. It was also one of those things, like, I got off of work late, I was expecting something different, and also went to the
and guys.